I was looking kind of forward to this. I was praying this afternoon, even for our time together. This is my first availability to join one of the monthly meetings and the gatherings. And so it's a privilege to even be a part of it and to be able to share with you. I look forward to being a part of many more and hearing many more stories and ministries that are going on as part of this alliance. Like Jeremy has said over and over, and as we read the updates and we're connected, God is doing such amazing things through this Mission First Alliance. We're seeing just unbelievable things happening in those first couple of years that we're looking at. And I think as I look ahead and I see God at work, I was even kind of distilling it down just in our own little areas that we're in, that we're just seeing things. And Andrew, I know you said you just resigned and you're starting something new. You see God working, you sense it. I think we all kind of have this sense that we're in a very unique season. It's not some random place that God's has put us for another day. It's truly the time in history He's chosen to put us here and minister and for the sake of the gospel. And what a privilege to serve every single day. So I started my police career in 1996. I was barely 21. I started in Billings, Montana, which is the largest city in Montana. It's an extremely active police department. Still to this day, hands down, the busiest place I've worked, especially in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. From there, just through God's orchestrating, and we don't have time to get into the details. Each of you have your own lives. You've seen God orchestrate things in ways you look back and you're like, I never would have guessed that. I moved and transferred to the Portland Police Bureau in 1998, and then worked there 6 years before I actually left police work for 3 years, after 8 years of policing total, to take a job at our church in full-time ministry. Again, through God's orchestrating and circumstances, not something I ever would have had on my radar. After about 3 years, actually after about a year, I knew that it was a season and that my heart and my calling, my wiring was for police. And I went back and took a job with the Beaverton Police Department, which is even though we border Portland, we're in a different county, and it couldn't be more opposite of Portland. And I have a deep heart and love for my brothers and sisters who work in the city of Portland. It's an extremely challenging place. Jeremy knows from working up in Seattle, holy moly. Yeah, the Northwest is its own animal when it comes to policing. But I definitely feel that this is the Northwest, very dark place, but I love it. I love the fact that we can be bright lights here. I love the fact that at this point in my career, way down the road, I can sit here and still have influence on this younger generation of cop, and especially as I think about it for the sake of the gospel, for Jesus. That's my heart. I sense that I will stay on patrol indefinitely until God puts me into a new season. But enjoying police work still, and enjoying our time tonight, I can share a little bit about that. So without kind of further ado, try not to talk too fast, but I'll get into kind of some of the why. I've shared a little bit about my background of how I got into policing, or where I got into policing, I should say. But I would say that for most people that get into police and first responder work, there is that kind of calling, or that sense of desiring to serve others and have kind of that different purpose than maybe just working a different job. And nothing against anyone else that works any other job. We know as believers that God has gifted and equipped us for all different things, and that every one of us is to use our gifts for Him, and to listen to His calling and leading our lives to where we're supposed to be. And we need everyone in all different professions as believers for the sake of the gospel. But I know for police and first responder work, there's a uniqueness. I know I feel it to the core of my being that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I feel that burning to be a part of this career and this job and serving others. Again, I know it's God's gifting and wiring and calling to me. What's interesting about it, though, is when I got into it at 21 years old, very naive to the great rewards of the job and the great costs. And that's how I've kind of always phrased it for a while now, is that there are great rewards to police and first responder work, and there are extremely great costs to it. And I think there were some of the great rewards, that camaraderie, that service, that purpose, that influence, those type of things, the excitement of the job. I think I had a better gauge on. It was more of the cost that I didn't. And that's, I would say, the one that Jeremy's heart is for. That everyone of you that's on this screen has an understanding of what Mission First Alliance is about. It's to bring an understanding, bring some light on some of those costs, because those costs are real and they're there. Just in the last week alone, I've been on dead bodies, I've been on tragedy, and I've been on some exciting fun calls too, where there's chases going on, there's arrests, there's good cases being made. So there's kind of these extremes that are constantly happening, and those take a toll on the first responders. And what I appreciate now is that with this conversation, most police departments, most fire departments, EMS, dispatch, everyone involved in the first responder community, they are becoming better at being proactive with this conversation rather than reactive. When we're looking at helping first responders navigate some of these times, I know with our new officers, we're giving them resources and things they need for the job on the front end, rather than, okay, now you've gone through this job for 1, 2, 5, 10 years, you've been through X amount of critical incidents or whatever else, exposed to this many things, here's some resources for you. If you look at the last 10 years, the conversation moving forward with helping first responders navigate some of these great costs of the job, statistically, interestingly enough, when you look at, let's say, suicide at that far end, all the way to everything else that leads up to that, all the trauma and everything else, divorce, all the problems that kind of come in, we haven't moved the needle as much as you would expect, I would say, with how much conversation is out there. And that's very interesting to me. When you look at the International Chiefs of Police Associations, Sheriff's Associations, all these things, firefighter associations, you put all the first responders in, and I know I'm saying a lot police because that's my world, but I'm talking all first responders. We're not moving the needle near as much as I would have expected in the last 10 years. And even in the last 10 years ago, I started to go through some of the darkest times I've ever gone through. And if we had more time, I'd share deeper parts of that story. But I got to a point where I was actively walking with the Lord. I loved the Lord. I had a police Bible study, and I started helping and seeing cops specifically going through very deep waters. They were experiencing these things we're talking about, kind of touching on tonight. And it was really interesting because as I would start to meet with them, I started to process some of my own things that I had just shoved deep down. And not only was I processing my own things, I didn't really know how to process it. They were starting to surface, I should say. But I also didn't have good boundaries. I'm a fixer, I'm a helper, just like first responders. We love helping people. And I started taking on these burdens of others who are going through difficult times and making them my own, feeling like I had to come up with solutions. I had to kind of be this cheerleader for them. I had to show them that, man, God's going to get you through this. And I do believe that. God is faithful. He's going to get us through things. He does. He walks with us closely. But I was very naive even then as I started to feel the own effects of this job, of what my role was, what true help was. And it was interesting because in that, I started to feel more and more of kind of a darkness in my own personal depression and things coming up. I felt a greater need, because I'm a believer, to squelch that down, to help others, to show them that God's going to get you through this, because he was. And I was encouraging guys, I was praying with them and meeting with them and doing those things, but I wasn't keeping boundaries the right way, and I was taking on things that I should never have taken on. They were not burdens for me to carry. And interestingly enough, we can sometimes as Christians start to kind of drink our own Kool-Aid. People are looking to us for answers, they're looking to us for hope and encouragement and purpose. And we can give them that, but that's Christ. That's Jesus who gives that. And it's not for us to take on this persona or be this influencer or try to be this person to kind of be this superstar. And I kind of started to drink my own Kool-Aid thinking, man, I'm the guy that people are coming to. I've got to be the guy that people are coming to. And I wasn't dealing with things the right way. And ultimately that's pride. We know that's sin, that's wrong. But it started to get worse and worse to the point, like I said, if we had more time, I'd get into it. But I got to a really, really dark place and hit it from every single person imaginable, including my wife, to the point where I attempted to take my life. Gets me a little emotional even just going back there for a minute. But all that to say is that was the reality of all these things we're talking about, these great costs. Me having these great costs that I wasn't dealing with, me taking on burdens and responsibilities that God never intended me, got me to a place where, like so many, even strong, long, serving first responders, got to a point of darkness, even as a believer, to where I was struggling at that level of taking my life. By God's grace, here I am, April 7th, 2025, talking to you. I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. But all that to say is that I want to circle back to what I started with, is when you look statistically, we haven't moved the needle as much as I would have ever expected. With the resources, the conversation, even the ability to be more vulnerable in these conversations, I would expect us to be further along. And as I've kind of studied it and researched it and even just moved through life in this context and in this environment, this new environment, I fundamentally have come to the conclusion it's because all these resources that we're giving, this knowledge, we are in a time and space where knowledge is almost infinite to us in one sense. We can Google and look up anything under the sun. We have more information and knowledge available to us than any time in history. Yet are we better off? And I would argue no, because a lot of the knowledge and the things that we're absorbing and trying to figure out are all based in human wisdom, and we need God's wisdom in this. And ultimately, that's a long-winded way of saying, without Jesus, every resource, even good resources that we're given to first responders, is a Band-Aid. It ultimately is a Band-Aid. Now, sometimes a Band-Aid or a bandage works a long time, and it can work for years, maybe even decades, maybe even get them through their career. But ultimately, I believe for me, if I'm just giving people these kind of temporary resources, never talking about Jesus, it's a misstep. It's a missed opportunity. It's a misplaced purpose when my purpose ultimately is Christ, and it's Christ alone. And if I'm bringing anything else into that and trying to Band-Aid things, even good things, and leaving Christ out of it, it's a misstep. And I don't want to do that. And so now my focus has shifted. I was going to school. I finished a master's degree in crisis and trauma counseling, and had the thought that I was going to go into counseling for police and first responders. At the end of that, God shifted my whole focus and desire with the things I've just even mentioned. I give you a snapshot of the epiphany I came to, is that counseling is great. I've had great counseling in my own life. Therapy is great. These resources are great. I just know for me and my purpose is, one, right now, is God has called me to still be a police officer. Two, he's called me to bring Jesus to the table, point people to these other resources and give them these things that help, counseling, therapy, and all those things. But ultimately, I feel like deep down, my desire is to point them to Jesus. And so right now, the things kind of that we're a part of and we're seeing out here in the Northwest just kind of explode. And I know Matt's seeing that up in Washington. We're seeing stuff down in California. And again, I'm only speaking to the West Coast. I see it all over. Just talk to Jeremy and everyone else. God's moving. But we've got a lot of different things going on here. I've never seen in my career cops and first responders so open to the gospel. It's never, ever been this open. And I've looked for those opportunities my whole career, It's never been that open. I just had an opportunity not too long ago to speak at a Navigators, if you're familiar with the Ministry of the Navigators. They did a training for the Portland Police Bureau, where the Portland Police Bureau allowed officers to come on duty to Christian police training. That's unheard of. That's unheard of for the Pacific Northwest, a secular large agency, to allow Christian police training for guys to come to on duty, men and women to come to on duty. Unbelievable. And then Lindsay has been on the call with us. We're part of the public safety chaplaincy here, the largest chaplaincy up in this area. We've got about 60 chaplains serving, 30 or 40 agencies in this area up into southern Washington. And I have the privilege of being on the board there. And then on the other side of things, outside of police work, I keep it very simple. I think you can get spread too thin, especially when you see God working and doing cool things. I think our culture tells us, oh, you got to start influencing. You got to do more. And that gets us distracted. I really believe the enemy likes to just keep us busy and distracted. So I keep it very simple. I work my day job as a cop. And then in my off time, I do stuff with the chaplaincy because it overlaps. I do stuff with Mission First Alliance now because I feel like it overlaps and connects. It's not putting me in multiple camps. And then my big focus, my day-to-day focus, is I do one-on-one discipleship with first responders, equipping them to go and disciple others. The biblical model that we need to implement no matter where you're at and who you are. And then we have on Fridays, we have a police first responder Bible study that we have. Again, I think there was a hope that it would be kind of like a recovery group, and I am all for recovery groups. We shifted it and felt like we will talk about all those issues, those great costs that come in, but our focus every Friday is Christ. And we've been just going through books of the Bible. Philippians, we did 2 Timothy, Philippians, we're moving into Romans. And we've got about 12 agencies represented. We've got a ton of guys from the furthest east side of the metro area to the furthest west side of the area, north to south. We have guys attending every single week, and it's growing every single week, more and more. And these guys are going through it. This one is particular. It's specific just to men, because we deal some interesting issues with men that are very common. My prayer and hope is that we would be able to expand this to do kind of a couples one where my wife could come in and we could have men and women, police officers, first responders, spouses, and be a part. So again, I kind of shotgunned you with a lot of things, but I do want to kind of end with something and then open up for some questions. I would say keep praying like you are for this ministry and mission that's happening, because I don't think we can overstate it. God is moving very uniquely. We know he moves all the time. We know he moves throughout history. He's doing stuff, but there are those seasons that you sense that he's moving, I don't even know how to put it, differently than before. And I'm very passionate about that. I'm excited about that. So it excites me when I hear like Andrea talking about that. Ben was sharing about his opportunity coming up. I know Marcus, you're taking on some new roles, all these different things, and even Conrad, I know you shared a few things too with just your passion to get media out there and how I see where you're at right now. Those are cool things. You got Corey up in your uniform working. I mean, there's just everyone that's on this call right now has stuff going on, and God's at work, and it's powerful. And so one of the verses I just want to share with you guys, it's a life verse for me. It's one that we go back to regularly in our police study. But it's 1 Corinthians 15:58. You might be familiar with it. I'm reading out of the New American Standard. It says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil is not in vain in the Lord." And that's been a key verse, because like you, me, we face discouragement. We face those times where we're kind of like, man, is this even working? Is there anything going on that I should even be, picking up? I feel like it's just spinning my wheels. and we know it's not in vain when it's in the Lord. As a supervisor, I don't typically go out and take calls. Like if we were slam busy, I'll help out and take calls. I just have a different role now, and it was tough when I first started as a sergeant because I love being involved in things, and now I have to take a step back. I'm filling in gaps. I'm assessing and supervising. It's just different. But on Friday, we were super busy, and one of the young guys on my shift, he got a call where this young girl was calling for help. She was on 911. She was being overly dramatic, and her situation was rooted in her manipulating and lying, which isn't uncommon. But she was over at some friend's house that she knew from school, and the parents were letting her use their phone and all this stuff. Well, for some reason, I jumped on the call with this young officer. I decided to go over to meet this person calling 911 in person, and I couldn't shake why, because it really wasn't necessary that I go there. I just sensed, I got to go on it. And I was out on patrol anyway, just driving around. So I'm like, I'm going to attach this call and go on this call. Well, as we're almost there, another officer, because I knew another shift was coming on, we were overlapping, we had tons of officers working. She got on the radio and she's like, "Hey, Sergeant, you can disregard that, I'll take your spot." And I almost let her take my spot because I was like, "Hey, I don't need to be on this call." But I just couldn't get past, I got to go to this call. So I'm like, "No, that's fine, I'm almost there, I'll take it." So we show up to this call, and sure enough, it was kind of what I expected it. This girl is calling, she's just kind of manipulating, being dramatic. And she was there with some friends from school and the mom of these girls and stuff like that. And we're kind of wading through this. And this dad came out of the back room. And as he walked past, he greeted me in their apartment. And I kind of recognized his face. And he sat down and he's just smiling at me. He goes, "Hey, I know you." And I go, I recognize you. I said, I recognize your face. I said, "Not bad. It's not in a bad context." I said, it's in a good context. I said, "I'm drawing a blank. I see so many faces. I'm just drawing a blank." He has kind of a distinct face. And he goes, "Yeah," he goes, you saved my life 10 years ago." I was thinking, "It saved me his life 10 years ago." Not that I'm thinking, that's not the context I have. He goes, "Yeah, you 10 years ago, 2015, he goes, it was nighttime. He goes, you came up to me at night in the park, seeing what I was doing, sitting there." And he goes, "I was going through a really, really dark time." He goes, "The worst time of my life." He goes, "My mom had just died." He goes, "I was suicidal. I was actually contemplating suicide right then, how I would do it, like jump off a bridge or whatever else." He goes, you spoke kindly to me. You prayed with me right there." He goes, "I just remember you praying with me." He goes, "I was like, Scott's praying with me. What are you doing?" He goes, "Then you took me up to the hospital to get me some help." He goes, "And you even bought me snacks." And I thought that was funny, just the way he said snacks. He's kind of a bigger dude anyway. You can tell he likes his snacks, and so that resonated with him. And he was telling me about what he bought, like Cheetos or something, up at the hospital. But we ended up having this great connection talk, and he goes, "Yeah, you even gave me your card with your number on it, and then it got rained on and ruined all this stuff." He goes, "I've never forgot about you." He goes, "God changed my life." He goes, that was the turning point of my entire life." He goes, "A year and a half later," he goes, "I met my wife. We're married now. We have 3 girls. He's doing well. He's working." Unbelievable. His wife, that she's dealing with this other girl and stuff. She kind of comes back and she's like, "Hey, you're the cop." She goes, "Oh my goodness." She goes, "Yeah, Roberto always talks about you." I was like, "Man, we've prayed for you and stuff. We didn't know if you were still a cop anymore. It's so long ago, 10 years ago." And again, I could talk for longer. We ended up having a great conversation. I'm going to reconnect with him again here this week. But all that to say is that 1 Corinthians 15:58 verse, there was the glimpse of it. That's what God does. He knows those times where our heart needs that encouragement. He knows those times where, is this really working? Is this where I should be? Is ministry, yeah, I know it's good, but I'm not seeing the results. And he gives us those little indicators of how he's working powerfully. And that was one of them. That's just one of them. And I was thankful for that. I was on a day that was busy, and I kind of just needed that. And it comes together. So
you said several times that we haven't moved the needle, in this space. Today I had a conversation with a captain from Montgomery County PD here in Maryland, and she was talking about how some senior officer, senior command, and that department just don't get it. Do you think that's part of the problem? Do you still have a lot of people that are older in the professions that kind of are still the old school mentality?
Yeah, Conrad, I would say that is a part of it, and especially depending on where you work, that could be a very large part of it. I've talked to cops in a lot of different places that senior command or those that are making decisions for this wellness and resilience for cops, they don't. There's kind of that old school culture of suck it up and get through it type mentality. The other part of it, though, I would say is the route we've gone with promoting all the different wellness and resilience. Good things, but we've made them ultimate things. And the reality is they aren't ultimate things. They will still only be a band-aid without Jesus. Without Christ changing your heart and coming in there, they're a band-aid. And I think what's happening is that we're seeing police and first responders take these resources that are available and even take them with open arms, but they're finding they don't have the result that they thought. That there's still a process to it. The results that they were thinking, these kind of big moments, these aha moments, these resilient moments aren't quite where they were. And if they do, the other part of that, I think, is kind of, there's a little bit of deception there. I think the enemy loves it, is to make things seem like they're very stable. See, that's all you had to do, is you had to just incorporate these things, and these 5 things are now a part of your life and your new mindset. You've got this mindset you can conquer the world with. And we, again, drink our own Kool-Aid, we buy into that, and we're still missing the central thing.
I cannot believe the parallels in our stories. I'm just over 25 years on. I have a suicide attempt in my history. I'm a licensed pastor. My wife and I are both licensed pastors in the Foursquare denomination, and along with my music ministry that I have just started getting going since October. One of the songs on my latest album is actually called "Band-Aid on a Bullet Wound." So that reference it struck me. But I'm currently writing a book. It's titled "I Wasn't Ready: The Vital Role of Faith in Law Enforcement." I'm about halfway through it, and the basis of it is this profession is profoundly rooted in gaining identity and purpose from the job. And it draws people in that have those voids because of the age group that we recruit. That 19 to 25-year-old age range are people that are searching for those things desperately. And when we get into this role that identity is your job and purpose is performance, it leaves that huge void, and the cracks form without you knowing it until the dam breaks. And when that time comes, the agency says, look at all these resources we've provided. We have all these wonderful things. You should be better. And if you don't get better, we're going to have a problem. Well, the void is God. The spirituality, that connection with our Creator, finding our purpose from who created us, and then developing identity out of that. And I would love to talk with you offline and maybe even talk about contributing to the book, because you have insights that are extremely parallel that I think would suit the overall theme of it well. So if you'd be willing to maybe read through the manuscript that I have so far and come up with maybe brainstorm if you'd like to participate in it, that'd be fantastic.
Go ahead and start the next rotational.
You're seeing that, and that's what's so interesting to me is I sit down with so many, and this is what I hear, is we're on these parallel paths, but a lot of times we feel very alone. And Jeremy, I know that's kind of been your mantra, alone but not alone. And that's that tagline for Mission First Alliance that has resonated with me. I remember when I first heard it and I saw the video, I was like, absolutely. But that is a massive tactic of the enemy to help us or make us feel alone, and we're not. And Corey, again, I appreciate you sharing, and would love to talk with you offline. We'll have to connect.
Yeah. Do you think that after, I know that the whole wellness and resilience is newer in the first responder culture, do you think that after a period of time when all of those tactics have run dry and people still aren't getting better, that they will just completely write off any sort of wellness tactic that's thrown their way, and you'll lose that opportunity to share Christ with them, because at that point they will be so burnt out and so frustrated? Or do you think it'll be the opposite, where they've tried it all and none of it still works, and then they'll be ready for the gospel?
I feel like we'll follow the same pattern from now until Christ returns that we see in Acts 17, where at the end of that time in Acts 17, you see that it said some believed, some said, you know what, we'll hear you again on this subject, and some were just scoffers and I don't need any part of that. And I think when it comes to the gospel, that will be kind of the pattern we'll see in life most of the time. You'll see those three responses. Now, coming back to your question as far as wellness and first responders, how that's going to look, I don't know. I could see it both ways, that if these things kind of run dry, I think it'll take a while for them to run dry, because we're getting kind of even some momentum going with that. I think people will be open because they're looking for that ultimate thing to help them feel well and resilient. We know that ultimately that has to be founded in Christ. Working out's great, going to therapy's great, going out in nature, all these things we do, good things, they're not the ultimate thing. And we make them ultimate things, and they become your God. Wellness is becoming kind of this God in people's lives, not just police first responders, but the world, like the Western culture specifically. Longevity, life, and your best life now, and all these things are becoming this ultimate thing that it's not intended. And so I could see it if it runs dry, people coming to Christ. I see if it doesn't, that's why I believe we kind of have this open door now, because all the agencies, at least where we're at, even though they're extremely liberal and secular, because they're seeing value in wellness, they're willing to let faith come into that. Oh yeah, spirituality, some people like that stuff, so we'll allow that. To where in our Friday Bible study, we have 3 agencies allowing guys to come on duty, even out of their jurisdiction, under wellness. Again, unheard of. So either way, I don't know what it's going to look like. I just know, man, now's the season. The harvest is ripe. Let's do this.
The part on the whole wellness piece, and Jeremy knows what I preach about all the time, and that is the proactive behavioral health, because we don't need to wait until everything breaks before we try to get things fixed. We can fix the small things in life. And that's been what I've been preaching, and I preached it a lot in Oregon, everywhere except Portland, because they didn't want, it seemed like, couldn't break into the whether fire or PD, but I've trained at, I think, 22 different departments in Portland. But it was after I did 22 departments, and we did the pre and post workshop data. And what I teach is basically strengthening families, our health, all aspects of health, family relationships, as well as spiritual health. So, and I do it underneath the guise of proactive behavioral health / work-life balance. But after we got all the needles moved on the post-workshop results, but the interesting piece is one of the guys in the group that I was doing all this with the research, he goes, you know what? We're never going to really move the needle very far on this mental health until we can figure out how to bring God into it. And it was that, to where that was in October. Here we are, April. Since that time, where I met Jeremy was at the Responders in Faith conference in Ohio last month, where I got to do the keynote. And so I took my regular work and I thought, what do I really try to teach people? And it's like, well, I'm trying to teach people to invite Christ into every role that you have and do in life. And that comes with your physical health. It comes in your thought health, right? Your mental health. It comes in family health. It comes in everything. And so it came out as Total Wellness Through Christ was the keynote. And it went, the whole Responders in Faith conference was incredible. And I'm happy to say I think it is November 14th, 15th, I got to double check the date, we are doing it in Oregon. just south of you.
Fantastic.
I mean, literally, it's probably about 30 minutes from the city. Now, I'm from Florida, so I don't even, I don't live there. But so we're bringing the Responders in Faith Conference to you. So I would love to get with you offline and get to know you and figure out how, I'm sure there's some ways that we could collaborate, and we're also looking for breakout speakers. And I think you definitely have a topic that would interest a lot of people. You guys are so far ahead in the Pacific Northwest compared to, let's say, the East Coast. I was just in Connecticut, and they don't have the wellness programs as we were talking about a little earlier. What happens if they run dry? I can already see it when they don't even have it. They still didn't have Christ, and a very sad situation.
I'm praying for our ministries, and again, we know God is linking us together. I think that's what Mission First Alliance is doing. And Jeremy, Katrina, thank you again. I know you have a lot of team around you with Marcus being a part of things and the board. But we know God is putting us in each of these places around the country for this central purpose of Christ, kind of as Donnie was saying. So thanks again.
Well, I love Jeremy's piece, but faith forward, right? The faith forward approach. That just, you said that one time, it just stuck with me.
God is doing something. I was so excited for this connection, Dr. Donnie, for you to connect with Jason tonight, and just for the work that you guys are all doing, and even Corey telling his story. And I just think that God is moving, and God is growing in courage and boldness. Many leaders right now that are willing to stand up for their faith and willing to say that Jesus is the answer. And I just see that God is moving, and I love the connections because I think that that's God's design. I think the other way that that the enemy has really been successful is in that isolation, like Jason was talking about earlier. Just that there has been so much isolation among people, feeling like they're alone in their struggles, feeling like they're alone in what they're dealing with, feeling like they're alone as a believer, as a Christian, feeling like they can't talk about their faith. And I just think that God is uniting his people for a purpose right now. And it's so exciting to just watch what God is going to do through all of us, and not just through individual missions, but through a kingdom-focused mission when we all come together. The verse that Katrina and I was just reading today as we were reading through Ephesians 4 and verse 16, when he's talking about the unity and all of the body coming together and working together for his purposes. And Ephesians 4:16 says, from whom the whole body joined and held together by every joint with which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. And again, like us coming together encourages and supports and inspires and builds up, and we have strengths and weaknesses, and we are so much more effective for God's kingdom when we work together versus in silos and isolated. And it's just exciting to see, again, what God's doing through all of it.